our next panel is it's a fireside chat panel number 2. It's the mental overload, how to cope and thrive in motherhood. And this panel is going to be moderated by Casey Must, founder and CEO of Citizen Yoga. On the panel, we have Alex Winkleman. She is the founder of Hello, My Tribe. Jen Schwartz, who is the founder of Motherhood Understood. Shannon Murphy, who is the co-host of Mojo in the Morning at 95.5. And last but not least, Leah Wiseman-Fink, who is the founder of Classes At. Welcome, ladies.
Afternoon, everybody. How are you? The morning was amazing, wasn't it? My name's Casey. I'm the owner and founder of Citizen Yoga. My company is really dedicated to mental health. Blessing and I spoke on a panel recently together, and we both sort of commiserated on how important mental health is, and she was talking to me about her journey as a mother in the workplace, and so I feel very honored to be here and supporting these wonderful women. So we're going to get started with one of my favorite questions that I ask a lot of people. It's more all-encompassing than just an introduction. So the first question to each one of our panelists, what is your personal mission? And how is your personal mission tied to your platform or business? So, Alex?
Going first.
Okay.
I'm Alex from Hello, My Tribe. Thank you, Casey. Gosh, I've never really thought about having a personal mission before. I feel like my entire career has been intertwined with my personal life. And for me, it's always just been doing what, I feel in my gut and my heart, doing the right thing. My business was started out of my own personal need for community and for support. I personally needed that as a mother, as a woman, and that's really the foundation to Hello, My Tribe. So they're so intertwined, my personal mission and the work I do.
Can you describe a little bit of Hello, My Tribe? What does it do for people? And yeah.
Our guiding light at Hello, My Tribe is that every woman needs and deserves a support system. The majority of women report that the village does not exist. And we know the very real consequences of loneliness and isolation that it has on an individual and as a society. It's truly an epidemic. And so Hello, My Tribe, we are dedicated to combating this lack of support system and being there for women and making massive change through our platform, our community, and our advocacy work.
Awesome. And that was sort of, as we go through each panelist, that's going to be a theme that you're going to hear from every one of us, and I think we all feel very inspired by that exact thing. Thank you so much. Give her a round of applause. Jen?
Hi, I'm Jen, the founder of Motherhood Understood, and my personal mission, well, we have this really, really ugly statistic in this country that over 800,000 women will suffer from a maternal mental health disorder every year. And of those women, only 15% get a diagnosis and get treatment for illnesses that are so treatable. And I was lucky enough to be one of those 15%. And my personal mission really is to destroy that stigma and shame that surrounds maternal mental health, so that 15% can become 100%, and no mom ever has to suffer in silence and ashamed and alone like I did. And that really ties into Motherhood Understood, which is an online platform and community and story sharing hub for those 1 in 5 moms, because I had really severe postpartum depression when my son was born 6 years ago. And I felt alone and ashamed. And I, like Alex, was also looking for a community of people who were going through things like I was going through, and I couldn't find it. So with that, I started sharing my story on a little blog called The Medicated Mommy, which then transformed into this bigger platform that wasn't about me anymore. It was about all these women with a similar story. and that led to Motherhood Understood. And we really believe that story sharing is the best cure for the stigma and shame that maternal mental health is still wrapped in. And also that what women and moms crave most and need most is connection and community and to feel understood.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That's wonderful. Shannon.
Hi, I'm Shannon Murphy from the Mojo in the Morning Show on Channel 955. I don't know why I'm sitting up here with you guys. You have like the most amazing personal missions. My personal mission is to survive. Please, God. You know, my job is like, at the moment, I'm very invested in the marriage of Haley and Justin Bieber. But on a more serious note, you too. Their wedding pictures were phenomenal. On a personal note, I also find that I have a really interesting and important platform to for women and moms to relate to. And so I hope that in a conversation that we have on the air, or something that is seen on my social media, or something that I am going through in my own personal life and I choose to share on the air, that somebody sitting in their car or making their kids breakfast is able to go, okay, I feel the same way and I don't feel alone. And so I have kind of made that my personal mission, to just be real, like maybe TMI at times, but real and relatable.
Wonderful. And we all understand why she's on the radio, because her voice sounds so perfect.
You know what? In second grade, Jake Krause made fun of me and told me I had a man voice.
What?
And
It
I just
sounds so
I want to
good.
find him on social media and be like,
Maybe he's married to somebody
Look at
here,
this man
and now
voice
she's
now.
embarrassed. He's somebody's. Is anybody married to Jake Krause? Be careful.
Anyone?
All right, Leah.
So Casey asked me the question, what is your personal mission? And I was going down the list of all the personal missions I have. Alex, Jen, and Shannon kind of said some of them about community, erasing the stigma, being real. Those are all my personal missions. But another one I thought of was, and I work with moms a lot in my platform, which is called Classes At in Brooklyn, New York. And I was with a group of moms last week, and one of the things I said was, if mom's happy, everybody's happy. Don't worry so much about the breastfeeding versus bottle feeding, the sleep training versus co-sleeping. If you take care of yourself and you make yourself happy as much as possible, and that includes getting the help you need and finding your tribe and community, and professional help if you need it, then all those other little things will fall into place. So that's one of my personal missions or mantras that I like to talk about.
How is that tied into Classes At?
So thank you. If
Welcome.
Classes
That's
At,
what I'm here for, Leah.
Classes At. If you want to join us on Instagram, it's at classes_AT. It's all about creating community. So some of the things we do are brand new moms classes where we talk through the issues, and mostly I just tell moms to take the pressure off themselves. Don't judge yourself, don't judge others, and lean on your friends. We also do events, and we also do one-on-one work with moms.
Thank you so much. Well, welcome to all of you. It's so exciting. So one of the themes, and we're going to sort of jump right in as much as we can, is this isolating feeling that you guys all spoke about at being a mom. Can most of you guys relate to that? You have a child, and then you're sort of working in that whirlwind. And so the first question is, as an adult, which we all understand, it can be really challenging to figure out how to build a community, especially a new community. When you have a baby, you're sort of stepping into a new role. And it can also be really intimidating. So can you describe, most of your platforms are all about building community. I sort of think of community and building community as becoming confidently uncomfortable. There's never a way that you're going to build community without you being confident, but also you're always going to feel uncomfortable. What were some of your attitudes? What are some of your actions that you took to build your new reinvented community that's maybe outside of your family? Whoever wants to jump.
So building a community as a mom or a grown woman is kind of like going back to dating, and it's, like you said, very uncomfortable, and sometimes you have to like ask somebody out, put yourself out there. And so I always recommend, to share a little bit about yourself, be vulnerable. That's how connections are made. That's how we have empathy for one another. The walls come down, and women can really relate to one another. And again, like, after that happens, you have to get, out of your comfort zone and say, hey, can I have your number? Hey, do you want to grab coffee? And we're all so like overwhelmed by our lives and busy and distracted, and like, you sometimes have to follow up again. Women are we're so isolated, and we kind of, this is just a really hard time in our lives, but there are so many other women out there feeling the exact same way as you. And so like, put yourself out there and build it for yourself and create it, and it will come.
Build it and it will come. I like that. Field of Dreams, Alex Winkleman.
Your mom friends will show up.
I love that.
I think for me, everything for me started and ended with the postpartum depression. I think that when I became a mom, I felt tricked. I felt duped. I didn't know it was hard. So I like to say I thought I was going to have this Cinderella moment where I was going to be this breastfeeding champ and the rock star of motherhood and a domestic goddess. And what happened instead was I went on antidepressants for the first time in my life, found myself in therapy twice a week, and barely left the house for 6 months unless I was forced to. And at that point, I started to get angry and resentful that nobody told me that this could happen and that I didn't know anyone personally or even people I knew on social media that were talking about this or experiencing it. And so that led to just talking. And it was scary to talk about because it was kind of like, well, I just became a mother and I'm taking medicine, and what are these people going to think of me? But then I kind of felt like, well, it can't suck more than what I'm going through now. So I just started sharing my story. And as I started sharing my story and as I started writing it down and I started blogging about it, which led to writing for other publications like the Huffington Post and places like that, I started to get floods of comments and messages online and then from people in real life who, because I shared my story, they felt safe enough to share their story. And that's kind of how the community grew and transformed into what it is today. So I really would say just start sharing your story, and you will share your story with people who don't get it, and you'll share your story with people who might say something to you like, but isn't motherhood so amazing? But at least you have a happy, healthy baby. And you know what? Those aren't your people. You move on and you share your story with the next person. And you share your story with the next person. And you keep sharing your story until you find your people, and you will. It might take a while. And I think the other thing too is that what we've all done is we've built these digital virtual communities, because sometimes it's hard to find communities in real life because we all are doing this a lot of times in isolation. So social media can be really bad for your health, but at the same time, communities like Hello My Tribe and Motherhood Understood and Classes At are all there as communities for you also when you can't find that in real life. So share.
It's great. Thank you.
You guys both used the word vulnerable, and I think that that's such a big one because, regardless of what stage you're in of motherhood, I know there are pregnant mommies here and moms who have newborns and moms who have, kids of different ages, but your whole identity changes. I mean, your world is changing, but you are no longer the same person. And I think that it is so important to be very cautious with the community that you surround yourself with in this season of our life. And does anybody know who Brene Brown is? I love her. I'm not trying to be rude. Jake Krause didn't text me. Brene Brown is, if you don't know who she is an author. She has a great TED Talk. She is a researcher, and she researches shame and vulnerability and empathy. And she does this. She's actually writing a book right now called Braving the Wilderness. And one of the things that she writes about and she has talked so much about is fitting in. finding your community. And she says the greatest barrier to belonging is fitting in, because we try so hard to fit in as opposed to belong. So we acclimate to the situation instead of being our authentic self. We're not creating genuine connections, and I think that that's what we need. We need those authentic relationships. And I have noticed that as I had my first, who is now 5.5, very important, the half, and I have a 2-year-old, my closest friendships are the women that I can be my messiest self with. I can put all of my junk on the table. They are not going to judge me for mistakes I have made. They are going to hold my hand through the journey I am walking, and they are going to have my best interest and my family's best interest at heart. And so I think you just have to be really diligent and, like both of you said, real and vulnerable to find those people to walk this with you.
Can you guys talk a little bit more about what did you exactly do to find? Because I'm putting myself in the shoes of somebody who's sitting here like, okay, well, I haven't found those people yet, and that can be really overwhelming. So, like, what are some groups or places that you go, or what have you actually done to find those people? Because I think it's really challenging to
One
locate
of the things
them.
that happened when I had kids, so I grew up here in Detroit, and I moved to New York right after college. So with my sister who has 3 kids, she has like 8 people she can call before she needs to call a babysitter. My mom, my dad, aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone. And here I am in Brooklyn with my first baby, totally alone. And I have friends and I had colleagues and, you know, my husband, of course, but I did not have a tribe. I did not have those 8 people I could call. So the first thing I did was we have this network called the Brooklyn Baby Huey, and for every season that people have babies, there's like meetups in the park. And it can be like 20 people, 30 people. It's really big because Brooklyn is crawling with strollers these days. But it's intimidating to show up, and especially by yourself. But one thing that I think, and I always tell my moms, is you need one. You need one mom friend. It could be in real life, it could be virtual, but somebody that you can text at 3 a.m. That's what you need, about how much this sucks, or how you have spit up in your hair, or how you hate your husband, or whatever you want. We all love our husbands. But you just really need to make an effort and concentrate on finding that one. 2 is awesome. If you have like 5 best mom friends, which is actually what happened to me when I started going to these big mom meetups. There was like 5 of us that split up, and then we would meet every week, and now we have a really long text chain. But I think that like those are some of the actions. And look, you guys are all here. This is a community. You are a member of it. You're here in real life. I see everybody talking and meeting each other and networking like this. You're doing it. But just to be conscientious about it. It's something that we really need.
I also just wanted to point out too that so Alex and I are very good friends. We share lots of intimate stuff. We are very messy, authentic with each other. I live in Charlotte. She lives in Austin. We met over Instagram a little less than a year ago, and we met in person for the first time last May in Austin, when we pitched a panel and spoke together. So community and connections happen like that also. So I think sometimes you have to get creative. And I think also, too, as a mom, we're going through all these new things. Sometimes it's easier to be vulnerable and share with people you've just met than the people who've known you for years and years and years. So that was Alex for me, in a sense.
And those are the ones that stick, because I keep using the word season. You're in the same season, so you have so many things in common, which makes it a little bit easier.
And then I was just going to suggest local libraries. They tend to always have Mommy Me programming.
Happy hours. I'm so much more fun after a glass of wine. I can make all the mom friends in the whole world. I'm being serious by that.
Yeah.
With
and
that
then
too.
things in your city like stroller moms, that was called Fit for Mom. I met my mommy friends at a Mommy and Me yoga class. I refused to go until I was like 14 months postpartum, and then I walked out of there with so many friends, but it was, I had to go consistently. I went religiously Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I started opening up, making connections, dating with these women, you know, and I really made my mom friends. And I mean, even like an app like Nextdoor, you can simply post, hey, I'm a new mom, or I'm a seasoned mom, but I'm, you know, in need of a walking buddy. And you'd be surprised like how many women will show up and walk with you, and then you can find your people that way. There's so many, like, in your local city, look up, you know, the calendars online for mom events, and they're happening every single day. We have to commit to showing up for one another. So try it all out. It takes time to figure out what works for you.
And these are just general mental health tips for anybody, whether you're a mom or not. And some of the philosophy that I teach is like, okay, an experience has two components. You have you and the world. And most of us are constantly trying to change the world, and we really have to like just go internal, sort of what Leah was saying. And what I do when I'm trying to find new friends, I write down qualities like what would make me feel more welcome if somebody was approaching me. And so then I embody those qualities. Like, I'm going to be the first to say hello. I'm going to be the first to ask the person's name. Even if I feel uncomfortable, I'm going to ask them to remind me of their name. And these are things that we can all do together. But it also just starts here, too. When you think about, this is sort of a big one, so expectations are so haunting. Expectations can destroy any good experience. That's what I've been saying in class. It's very insightful. Expectations can destroy any good experience. So I'm like, stop expecting and enjoy this yoga class now. But what expectations did you guys have for yourselves as mothers? Let's just start there and sort of see how can you combat some of these expectations that can feel so heavy and frustrating. And when we talk about overload, we're overloading our own selves, so it's not just the external world. Does anybody want to grab that?
I think that I say I'm a recovering perfectionist because I thought that I was going to know what to do, and not that it would come easy for me, and it definitely has not, but you are constantly looking around and comparing. And so when it comes to expectations, instead of setting the expectations for myself, a lot of the times I was trying to compare myself to other moms that I had in my life who are all amazingly wonderful. And so I would just say comparison is the thief of joy. I mean, we've all heard that saying. And so when it comes to expectations, it's like you said, you write a list of qualities that you want in a new friend. I think it's important to write a list of expectations that you have for yourself, and not as a mom, and not deviate from that or change it or alter it based on outside individuals.
Yeah, just one more. Yeah.
I think I mentioned a bunch of my expectations already, the breastfeeding champ and the rock star of motherhood, Cinderella, all of that stuff, Pinterest queen, making my own baby food. Keep in mind, I was nothing like that before I became a mom. So I was never a do-it-yourselfer. And so I don't know why I thought motherhood was going to transform me into all of those things. But I remember sitting in my therapist's office, you know, on her red couch crying, you know, that I was going to be like this forever, and that I wasn't like my mother-in-law, you know, who's very Martha Stewartish. I wasn't like my mom. And she said, Jen, she said, fuck those other moms. She said, you're just the mom that you are. And it took a little while, but I realized that that's exactly it. We're just the people we are, and we're enough as we are. And I think that we put all these shoulds on ourselves. I should do it this way. I should be this. I should be that. And I think what we really have to do is just learn who we are and be comfortable with who we are. And then again, we find the people, we find the community who also, you know, fit in with that. And we have to kind of turn out that noise. And I think social media, of course, doesn't help, because we look at, you know, these aspirational feeds and these unrealistic pictures and images, and we compare ourselves. And I think someone said, you know, unfollow any Instagram account that makes you feel shitty about yourself. But it's true. I think that we just have to stop. We have to stop comparing, and it's easier said than done. But it's.
Quick. I just want to say one quick is I really like the term bad mom, and when I say it, I mean that I'm a bad mom in the sense that I'll do anything to for the sake of my mental health and self-care. So if that means that I'm having 2 moms over and we're drinking wine and feeding the kids pizza while they run around and scream, like I'll do that. And we're #bad moms. And that's amazing. And I try and take like ownership over that because I'm proud of it because it means I'm taking care of myself. Okay, Casey.
No. Well, I was gonna throw it to you anyway, but Jen had said like we don't have to sit in our suffering. When we had a nice, really long talk prior to this panel, and we don't have to sit in our suffering. And sometimes our expectations can get that heavy. And Leah was talking sort of about like what prevents somebody from getting help? That was a question that we wanted to answer here. Like, why don't women who are moms ask for, whether it's babysitting, whether it's actually going to a therapist? What prevented you from getting help initially, potentially? So maybe start there.
I think a lot of it is, we've talked about this, but it's a stigma. I think it's hard to say. I had postpartum with both my kids. I have a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old. And the first time it went on and on and on until he was about a year. And I went to my general practitioner and I was like, I don't feel right. And she's like, well, let's check your mental health. Like maybe we should try going to a therapist and medication. But that's a whole year of my life that I feel like I want back, because like if I had realized this earlier, then I could have like put those supports in place for myself. When I felt it coming on the second time with my daughter, I woke up one morning and I looked at my husband and I'm like, something's not right. And that day I went back to my doctor, back to my therapist, adjusted my medicine, and called my mom and said, can you come in town? And that time, I mean, it was still terrible, but it was so much more manageable because I knew what to do. So I think like us telling our stories and talking about it reduces the stigma. I've also lost people quite recently to suicide. And so talking about mental health is even more of a passion of mine, because I wonder if those people could have been saved. I mean, we don't try and put guilt on ourselves or go back in time, but the work that I do is fueled by that.
I also want to point out that a lot of women in this country don't actually have access to getting help, whether they live in a rural town where there's not a hospital, there's not a therapist, there's not a lactation consultant, or they don't have health insurance. I mean, these things are expensive. Getting help is expensive. And so, yes, we all need to be sharing our stories, but we also systematically need to make change so that people actually, they know about these issues, they have the information, they have the resources, they have access to receive help.
And the education piece is missing too. So a lot of times what I found is that women don't realize that they're depressed or anxious because we don't know that that's a thing. And so we just think that we're failing. And we're so ashamed by the fact that we think we're failing while every single person around us is doing amazing at motherhood. They love it. They're killing it. They're rock stars and we're failing. And so we don't speak up. We don't speak up and say, I'm feeling like this. I think something's wrong. And I think with the healthcare piece, not many medical professionals are trained in maternal mental health. And the thing with maternal mental health is when you have a postpartum or prenatal mood disorder, you have to see someone who specializes in it. So there are so many stories of women who have been dismissed by regular doctors, OBs, pediatricians, their own families. Oh, it's just baby blues. Oh, go outside, take a walk, get over it, power through it. You're not depressed. You have a supportive husband. Things like that. And all of those things combined, I think also makes it really hard for women to speak up and say, I need help, and then actually get the help that they deserve.
Thank you. Last question until we take questions from the audience to Shannon. Shannon, how would you, I know I just made you nervous, how do you define a boundary, or anybody can take this one, because we're talking about being overloaded and making sure that you know how to set a boundary is really important. Can you give an example of one boundary you set every week that helps you maintain balance?
So I have I'm actually going to rephrase that. I had really bad boundaries with my time. And I found that I was packing my schedule to just because I had a hard time saying no, or I didn't want to be lonely, or there were just a lot of things that I, wanted to be involved in. And so I am really super cognizant now of looking ahead in my calendar and going, wow, there is a cluster of stuff that I have this particular weekend. Actually, if you follow me on Instagram, I talk about this a lot. I will actually book myself free time and self-care time, and I leave that in there. There is nothing, even if a friend calls me and has something really great that she wants to do, I know that that is imperative for me to be able to reset and recharge and then get through that chunk of time where I am really busy. I think that we have to give ourselves permission to do self-care and not feel guilty about it. I got a massage the other day, and as I'm getting the massage, all I could think about was, I feel like I have a million other things to do, and I shouldn't be doing this, and I should be checking items off of my to-do list. We need to give ourselves permission and be okay with self-care. It is so important.
Thank you. So if there are any questions from the audience, we'd love to field any. I can't see. Oh, yeah. Do you have a question?
Who else has a question?
So, Jen, you said something that spurred this in my mind about how you felt duped becoming a mother, and then it's like I've been struggling with this lately with friends who are getting pregnant, and I'm like, I want to warn them about the reality. But it's so hard because the narrative is so positive, and I did have one friend where I did try to warn her, and she's like, I cannot talk to you. I have to stay positive now. And so I kind of, so I'm really interested, any of you could really answer this, but thoughts or ideas about how do we gently warn our friends who are becoming mothers?
It's a tough one. I think that it's funny because when I was 8 months pregnant, a friend said to me, "Hey Jen, are you worried about any postpartum depression stuff?" And I flat out looked at her and said, "No, that would never happen to me. I'm so excited to be a mother," right? And so part of it is, no matter what we say, will the pregnant mother believe us? I don't know. I don't know that if anyone had warned me that I would have even believed them, but I think that there is a way to say, hey, and I think it depends also how close you are with the person, but there's a way to say, hey, sometimes there are emotional complications that come with motherhood. It can be happy and magical, but you can also feel overwhelmed and tired, and I just want you to know that if you feel anything or you feel something's off or you're not sure, please call me. I'm here for you. So it's not so much that you're going through all these bad things that can happen. You're just letting them know that it might not be exactly what you expect. And if that's the case, I don't want you to feel like you have to stay silent about it. Just call me. I'm here for you. That type of thing.
I want to echo what you said. I say that exact same thing. And the way I phrase what happened to me is, I hope this doesn't happen to you, but I just want to tell you what it was like for me, because it's hard to be offended by that. It's like, well, this, I just really hope it doesn't. But if it does, I say exactly what Jen says. Reach out to me, reach out to someone. If you start to feel a little bit like there's something wrong, then go seek help sooner instead of later, because there's no reason to mess around with this.
I also like to encourage my friends to join a postpartum support group. And those can come in many different forms. It could be a yoga class, but that you go consistently, or a 6-week postpartum class. Because so much, when you're sitting around with other women, 6 other women who have just had a baby, it's pretty, I would say, easy to be vulnerable in that situation because everybody is at a heightened state. So, helping guide your friends in that direction is also, I think, a really tangible and helpful thing to do.
Should I say something? Okay. I'm the teacher over there. I'm in the service industry, so most of the things that you guys are talking about, I don't really relate to.
In the back.
Hi, I'm over here. I'm a nurse practitioner, but as soon as you said access to healthcare, I don't work in the maternal fetal health department, fields, but I don't work for them, but Maven, I don't know if any of you know what it is. I feel like we're all a bunch of women, so we should share. Maven is an app. I think it's free to sign up, but and in terms of access, like if you live in more a rural area or you have a hard time finding care for your child while you get appointments for yourself, Maven has sort of like general health questions. Basically, you could find a bunch of different kinds of providers that they'll give you, usually it's like 10 or 15 minute slots, and sometimes it's just to start snowballing. I don't know if it's people actually get their full range of health care on an app, but it's like telemedicine. So it's about $30 to $35 depending on what service you're asking for, but they have like sleep trainers and mental health professionals and all that stuff. So I found it to be kind of helpful. One time I had a question in the middle of the night, so they have people, like, because of different time zones, they have different people available at different times of the day, so it's cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Madison. My question is in terms of like postpartum depression, and I'm sure it's different from doctor to doctor, but I find that the standard like list of questions that they ask you when you come to your 6-week appointment, like, do you want to hurt yourself? Do you want to hurt your children? Are you making it through your day? Okay, great, let's move on. Like, I think that is so cut and dry, and I know that there are a number of individuals who that would alert them to, yes, that's what I have. I think there's so much more gray area than like those 5-6 questions that really don't necessarily put, because sometimes you can't even speak. It's so paralyzing, like, to try to describe it. Like, how as lay people can we help like the medical field like better address that and make sure, because people's lives are getting lost to this and families are affected. And
So in my work, and I mean, the best thing to do is, in a sense, become an advocate, right? You know, in the advocacy space. And there are tons and tons of organizations that are working and helping to get things like this rectified, right? The fact that you get screened, maybe you get screened 6 weeks postpartum and you have to answer those questions. And probably 8 out of 10 moms lie, right? And those questions that work for depression, but they don't work for anxiety. You know, there are organizations that you can get involved with, like Postpartum Support International and 2020 Mom and the Blue Dot Project and ACOG and organizations like that that are trying their hardest to get better tools and better processes implemented so this can help. And also, again, it's people like us, like with Motherhood Understood, we really look at ourselves like the bridge between the moms who are struggling and the medical professionals who can help. It's people like us who just keep sharing our stories and our symptoms and talking so other moms see that, know they're not alone, and then know that when they do go to their OB, they can speak up and advocate for themselves. And if that OB dismisses them, they can say, okay, well, this isn't normal. I need help, so help me.
Yeah, and just adding to that, we all have spoken about how the antidote to depression and anxiety is community. So if you are mentally healthy, like, you know, make it your effort to build a community of people that speak honestly together, even if it's just a group of people at your house. But we can all form like communities together or participate in communities in an authentic way, and that makes a huge difference in detecting mental health issues amongst people.
One thing I would say also is we have to look out for each other. Yeah. And one way I found to do that is to ask the question, how are you really? You know, especially if it's someone, I said find that one mom friend, but that you suspect is like not so good. It's like pull them aside and say like, how are you really doing? You can tell me and let's talk about it and let's, strategize to find you the help you need.
Right. Don't let other people coo over your friends' babies, and you instead look your mom friend in the eye, put your hands on her wrist, and say, "How are you feeling?" And when she says, "I'm fine," ask one more time.
Yeah. I have a friend who does that to me all the time, and I love her for it. And sometimes it's just the space that we're in that I'm like not comfortable with sharing or whatever. So if you feel in your gut, I would say that something's a little off or she's not, fully disclosing. There may be something that I don't want to miss, but we're missing discussing. be persistent in reaching out to her. I said this last year. I think if we all just took off our masks with each other, this community in this room and this community of moms nationwide and worldwide would be so much better off. And so I will say that until I'm blue in the face. Take off your mask, be real, be vulnerable, be raw, and you know what? If someone's gonna judge you for it, then you know that there's not space for them in your circle.
All right, I hate to cut this short, ladies. Clearly a needed discussion. So thank you very much, panel.
Thank you, guys.
That was awesome.
Good job.
So I just felt moved to say, I was looking out at everybody, and mothers are so beautiful. I don't know if you guys know this, and I just felt like I had to say, you all have this like joy and sparkle to you. So if anyone hasn't told you lately, you're beautiful.